Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Aaron St. Denis at FF Mad Scientist. The guy in the green box is Jesse Moeller at JMoeller05, and down in the red, we have Jeremy Shulman at FF_Rebel. Thank you all for joining us, and welcome to the Fantasy Football Universe. Well, we're almost 12 shows in. Moment of truth. Did the first time hearing the intro make Jeremy deaf on his headphones?
No, we're good. Look, I've taken all of 2024 off so far just to recover. My hearing is fully restored now, and I'm ready to jump back into it, man.
Oh, wow. You must be on the Dallas Cowboys. They did the same thing.
They might.
No comment? No comment.
But no, I mean, fuck the Cowboys.
Well said. I'm going to quote tweet that for the show. Fuck the Cowboys. It's a rookie profile of Michael Penix Jr., in case you're wondering, but somehow fuck the Cowboys is the quote tweet. So yeah, I was worried the first time having that loud theme come on. I'm like, I don't think Jeremy's heard this. He tends to have headphones in, and they're loud, and normally he goes deaf pretty quickly. So, all right, you can still hear. That is good. Let's get into it. We are here for the 2024 sneak peek of Michael Penix Jr., quarterback out of Washington. Left-handed quarterback out of Tampa, Florida, carved out a remarkable path during his collegiate career. Started at Tampa Bay Tech High School as a three-star recruit. Some of these high school names, I love writing them up. It's like Tampa Bay Southwest High. There was one where the word high school appeared three-star high. It was like High North Point High School. And I'm going, oh, yeah. I don't think that's right, but I looked it up and I'm like, no, that's the real high school's name. They like the word high in it. So, all righty. So, as I said, freshman year, he suffered an ACL injury, which was a big problem, obviously. That was at Indiana where he started. My main concern before we get into it here, he's got a 6 year between COVID and injuries, 6 years in college. 4 at Indiana, 2 at Washington. That is not great. But for like I said, season-ending injury in his first year at Indiana, so he never really got things off the ground. If you would like, we also have the published written version of this over at fantasyfootballuniverse.com. This one is written by Jesse. After 2021, Penix left Indiana to join his head coach, Kalen DeBoer. That's the name that I can never pronounce. Me and SC went through this the other day, so I'm never going to say that word again. He took off in 2022. Obviously, as you see, his stats really finally pick up. He went from where his 4-year high in Indiana was 1,600 yards to back-to-back 4,600-yard seasons at Washington, 46-41 in 2022 and 49-03 in 2023. Both years threw for more than 30 touchdowns in his 2 years in Washington, that is. What really stood out for you guys?
It's the injuries. Like, it's four straight season-ending injury. It's not like little. And he was also... So his second year in Indiana, he was a Heisman, like he was one of the front runners in the middle of the season before he went down in Indiana. So like we saw kind of a glimpse with him, but yeah, it's just
he's old. All 4 years at Indy, right? All 4 years.
All 4 years. All 4 years. It's either shoulder or ACL.
I looked and it was
ACL. Yeah, the double ACL tear.
Yeah, 3, 7, 6, 5, and I'm going, wow. I'm like, do I remember this? I thought one of them might have been COVID, but was it actually 4 injuries?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And the COVID year, he still screwed up.
He was hurt anyways.
Yeah. He got double dinged, so it's like, all right, man.
Yeah, he was already out. It was just, lovely.
I'm surprised he's honestly still playing. Like, there's a ton of injuries. It's wow.
And then he transfers to Washington, and he's suddenly healthy. So I don't know, just different training program there. It's amazing.
Took almost a whole year off, right? The year before, just to kind of get right. And then, biggest thing that stands out for me is he's been in college 6 years and a master's degree. He's mastering and getting drafted to the NFL. So at least we got a bachelor's degree in that time. It's like, what's the Chris Farley movie? He's like a lot of people go to school
I was
for
just
9
thinking that.
years.
Yeah, they're called
And
doctors.
yeah, they're called doctors.
What movie was that? I was just gonna say
Tommy Boy.
Tommy Boy. Yeah, they're called doctors.
Classic movie. It's so good.
Thank you. I'm glad we're on the same page. He comes back after 2 weeks off, and we're right on the same page.
There you go.
We are going straight to Chris Farley metaphors. Awesome. That's exactly what I thought. So we'll get into his measurables, I guess. 6'3", which is 53rd percentile, 213 pounds, 22nd percentile. He is 23.8 years old. 23.8 years old and is a senior. So he's not small by any means. He's not huge. He's just kind of your, prototypical middle-sized quarterback. He's not 6'6", but he's also not Bryce Young. So any concerns there with any of it? I mean, the age, I think, is the most concerning. Him, being in the Velus Jones college program. Thoughts?
Yeah. It is what it is. You kind of just, the age is the main concern. Like, he's not as big as Drake May. Drake May is like the thickest of the group because he's like 240 pounds, give or take. But he's in between. So he's not as skinny as Jaden Daniels because Jaden Daniels is pretty skinny. He's like barely over 200 pounds.
Oh, even in his picture, I thought that. I looked and sorry to interrupt. I looked at the thumbnail we made for Jaden Daniels and I said, my God, he looks bone rack, like rake skinny.
He needs to put on some weight. But yeah, I'm not concerned. Like, his athleticism is severely limited due to the ACL issues. Like, you kind of see it. He can move, but the lack of athleticism outside the pocket like really shows up for him. So you kind of think you're like, oh yeah, this guy could like maybe he can move in the pocket. You watch him play and you're like, he's not really athletic. So he's a throwback player. He's very much a throwback player.
Yeah, and that's kind of the best thing I could write down for him. I wrote down, quote, willing runner, not capable runner,
not good, just
not
willing.
Like average. He's willing to run the ball if he has to. So it's definitely sapped his athleticism, and you're looking at kind of like a Jared Goff more than anything else back there in terms of athleticism. So. He's going to have a good line in front of him to be successful, I think.
Yeah, the size didn't bother me. Like I said, it's the age. I'm always out on these guys where I look and I say, they didn't do anything until like their senior year when they were older than everyone. This one, it's a little bit tough for me to judge because in one hand you could say, I don't trust him at all because he didn't do anything until he was a senior or a junior. What's it, his 5th year, which is a red flag. But on the other hand, you could say, well, maybe he never really did anything because he was always hurt, never got a chance. So I don't want to say I'm completely out on him based on, the late breakout, but it's also a big red flag. And like Jeremy said, when you add in the fact that he is Ben Roethlisberger of mobility there at the end, it's like, okay. Strengths and weaknesses, I guess we'll get into. We've determined that being a Jalen Hurts type rusher is a weakness, and he is not going to be doing so. What are some strengths you guys noticed?
So for me, it's all about rhythm and timing. Like, he's really good if he gets his feet set, which is key because sometimes his reads are behind because he doesn't get his feet set in time. So when he's dropping back, if he gets his feet set and he's rhythm, he's awesome. He can hit guys in stride. He can lead them perfectly. So he's the ideal yak type quarterback where he can find the wide receiver, hit them in stride, and let them go. And you see that's why they get the big plays. On the flip side, it's like timing and him getting disrupted. So if you get pressure on him, his numbers just fall apart. And like this is the whole Jared Goff narrative, which actually makes a lot of sense with him. Yeah. Like, so he needs the line and he really needs weapons. So like that's why you'll see where we have him mocked and things of that nature. Like there's two sides of the coin with him. It's not 100%. Like you have issues and positives you take away with it.
I don't remember much of his time back in Indiana. You had said before he was injured the 1 year, did you say he was on pace for like Heisman consideration?
And they were almost undefeated in November that year. It's like 2019. He was really good with Indiana, and he actually had 119 yards scrambling. So like it's by far the most, but then it's really the ACL thing. It just my main point is, so you're saying he did show some promise, because that was going to be my main concern was, is it a case where he sucked for 4 years, went to a loaded offense, and all of a sudden was good? So they were good, and then they fell apart. When he was healthy in Indiana, he was still pretty good, and Indiana was a pretty limited roster. So so that answers my question there. How about you, Jeremy? What did you see, good or bad?
Yeah. So first, I'll totally agree with Jesse. I mean, the rhythm passing ability for me is just a negative, right? Because you're going to want him to be able to be more than just a system guy in the NFL. I don't know if he can be, but hopefully he can progress into that. You look at DeBoer and Grubb and that coaching staff that is now Alabama's coaching staff. headed into the next season. I mean, those guys really, it reminds me a lot of Hendon Hooker last year. I mean, certainly he's more of a runner than Penix is. At the same time, there were questions about, is he a system guy? What did the offense kind of do for him and Jalen Hyatt and the rest of those players? And I think we have a similar situation here with Penix. What did that offense do for him? There were a lot of easy reads. There were a lot of pre-snap movement. There was a lot of screen plays and design plays to get scheme guys open. So I am concerned with, like Jesse mentioned, if that rhythm isn't there, if he's getting rushed. I mean, you saw him totally fall apart in that in the championship game, even the Pac-12 championship against Oregon. He missed a lot of kind of easy throws when he was pressured, even if the line picked it up. So that's the biggest issue for me. I mean, in terms of pros, he's a lefty, so that helps him a little bit. But also at the same time, he's pretty accurate with the deep ball. And he has a good arm. I wouldn't say it's exceptional, but he's got a very good arm in terms of strength, and he can kind of fit in those tight windows. The problem is the windows are going to get even tighter. So, like Jesse mentioned, good and bad with him, and you just hope he can develop.
That's my first thought when I looked over some of his film was, this feels like an Ohio State quarterback. It's like, are we sure he's any good, or is it just he's got 4 Hall of Fame receivers he's throwing to? Like, I get he's got Rome Odunze, who's going to go early. Then who else do he have? He has McMillan, and there's a name I always forget.
Polk and Jalen Polk.
Polk, thank you. I literally published my DLF profile for him earlier. But so you have 3 who are likely to be drafted this year in the NFL. All are really good. So, back to what Jeremy was saying, was he any good, or is this just a system fit? All right, I guess we can close it out here with our pre-draft analysis of where we think he's going to go and the ideal landing spot. I will let you start off, Jesse, because you wrote this article over at fantasyfootballuniverse.com. You have him expected at, it looks like, the tail end of the first, somewhere in the second, and your ideal landing spot is pick 42 to the Minnesota Vikings. What are your thoughts? Is that where you think he's going to go, or that's where you'd like to see him go? With all those weapons there, where he could be a system quarterback.
Yeah, and he gets, ideally they're bringing Kirk Cousins back. So if they don't bring Kirk Cousins back, this opens up a lot more situations. But I was on the thought process: Kirk Cousins comes back and he gets to learn on another cousin to be a professional quarterback, right? So you have someone who's done it and is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, this is the ideal situation. You're not throwing him in there because, like we said, he has these issues. So I just don't think, because of the red flags with his age and all of the injury concerns, because let's be honest, if you have 4 season-ending injuries, that's a super red flag for any team drafting him, right? So I think he's not going to be a first-round pick. I think he'll be similar to like Will Levis range, maybe a little bit farther in there, where somebody falls in love with the tools and they're like, you know what, I can make this work. So I figured Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell and his scheme, like, he fits perfectly. And you could do Detroit, but like, I think Detroit's going to sign Goff to a massive extension. So like, I don't really think it makes sense with Detroit anymore.
I think for me, I don't mind Minnesota. I like where your head's at, though. He's going somewhere with a loaded offensive weapons. I also didn't mind in the second round if he goes to Denver or another team that might move on from an aging quarterback that's loaded at receiver. Seattle.
Seattle's one. Yep.
Pittsburgh. I don't love the weapons in Pittsburgh as much. I would say probably my top. I like Minnesota. Then I would also say Seattle, Denver, Pittsburgh would be my top 4 there, but Minnesota seems like a good fit. What do you think, Jim?
I have Denver and Pittsburgh as kind of almost worst case for him, only because he might be looked at to start right away or in a year, and I think he's going to need 2 or 3 years. He's going to need to get on the Jordan Love plan, and then just hope he can learn and progress 100% healthy, and really figure out how to work within the system. But my biggest issue with Denver and Pittsburgh is their offensive lines are a bit suspect in terms of the passing game. So Minnesota's okay. They do need to, he's going to have some time. I think Cousins will be back. Seattle was a great call. I'd like, I don't know what your thoughts are in this, Jesse, in terms, because that's your team, but if Geno comes back or they get another aging guy, maybe they can develop him. And then 2 more I had down. One is Dallas. Sitting behind Dak Prescott for a little bit could be interesting. And the other is Atlanta, assuming that Atlanta brings in kind of an older veteran as opposed to going like the Justin Fields route. So, I do like the Minnesota and Seattle at the top 2.
So let's just to double check here. We're all saying Minnesota. We all say Minnesota in the second round, though, right? Like I see some of these mocks. They have Minnesota taking them at 11 or 12 or whatever it is. That's batshit crazy.
That's
no way.
No, what you don't
absolutely.
No, it's gonna come out with like when they do the NFL testing. Like you'll see, like he's already falling out of the first round of mocks. He's going to be a thing where he's like not in any first round mocks anymore, just because of all the issues with him and stuff like that. But yeah, like he has great arm talent, and that's the biggest thing he has. So like the offense was good. It's a very good pro style offense they had in Washington, so he can transmit and just like he can swim in there. It's just he needs time.
Yep. All right. Well, that concludes the 2024 rookie sneak peek of Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr. You can head over to the website for the written breakdown of him and the rest of the prospects in this class. That is fantasyfootballuniverse.com. Or you can tune back in tomorrow where we have LSU receiver Brian Thomas Jr. So for Aaron, Jesse, and Jeremy, thank you all for tuning in. Take care, and we'll see you again tomorrow.